At the end of the month, toilet paper mummies will be walking door to door and asking for candy. But have you ever wondered what a mummy was like in real life? I was curious about it, so I decided to dig through the information available to me, which pretty much leaves the internet because tomb raiding is illegal. I found that mummification was a religious ritual used in ancient Egypt to provide a place for the spirit to return to the body in the afterlife. Ancient Egyptians believed that the spirit had to repossess the body, but the body must be recognizable in order to do so. Mummification is a process that involves 7 steps, beginning with the body being washed, the removal of internal organs, the removal of the brain, desiccation, embalming, placing the internal organs in canopic jars, and finally wrapping the body in linens. According to the British Museum, the earliest Egyptians were actually buried in pits in the desert. However, they soon found that those buried in coffins, to protect them from wild animals, decayed very quickly, while those that were exposed to the heat and dryness of the sand did not. Therefore, mummification was developed as a technique to both protect and preserve the body. The process of mummification began at a tent called an ibu, or a place of purification, where the body was washed with palm wine and water from the Nile. The entire process is carried out by a chief embalmer, who is a priest wearing the mask of Anubis, or the god of the dead. The next step was evisceration, or removal of internal organs, with the exception of the heart. The internal organs were the first part of the body to decompose, which is why they were removed first. An incision was made on the left side of the body, the organs were removed and packed with salt. However, the heart was believed to testify for the body in the afterlife, so it stayed in the body. A scarab, which represented the holy beetle of Egypt, or an amulet similar to a gemstone, was placed over the heart to protect it through its voyage in the netherworld. After evisceration was the removal of the brain. While it was sometimes left to decay and decompose in the body, it was most often removed. However, in order for the spirit to be able to recognize the body, no action could be done that would disfigure the face. Therefore, a hook was inserted through the nose and swirled around to liquefy the contents of the brain. Then the head was tipped forward to allow the contents of the skull to pour out. After the removal of the brain comes the desiccation of the body, which simply means to dry it out. The body was placed under a pile of natron salts, which were salts native to ancient Egypt and are similar to today's baking powder. After 70 to 90 days, the flesh was shrunken and the skin was darkened. Resin, cedar oil, myrrh, cassia, and palm wine served as embalming agents. They dried out the body even further, but left the skin elastic. The body was also stuffed with sawdust, leaves, and linens to keep its shape. The main internal organs, the lungs, stomach, intestines, and liver, were each placed into a series of 4 canopic jars, represented by the sons of Horus, which were gods of a funerary cult. Imsidi was human-headed and faced to the south. Hapi was baboon-headed and faced to the north. Duamutef was wolf or jackal-headed and faced to the east. And Kebu-Sunet was falcon-headed and faced to the west. The Museum of Science in Boston stated that tomb raidings became so common in ancient Egypt that there were concerns over the preservation of internal organs. So canopic jars soon became symbolic and were still placed at the site of burial, but the organs were often left in the body. The last step was for the body to be wrapped in linens. However, because this process was so long and expensive, only the most wealthy could afford. And the most even more wealthy placed the mummies in sarcophaguses, which were coffins carved in the likeness of the deceased. So in review, mummification was a religious ritual that allowed the spirits to return to the body. It was a process of 7 steps where the body was washed, the internal organs and brain were removed, the body and internal organs were desiccated, embalmed, placed in canopic jars, and finally wrapped in linens. And that's a wrap.